The night was quiet on the small human colony planet. The wind moved slowly through the tall trees and the stars above shined like tiny fires. In the middle of the forest, a little boy walked alone. He was no older than 8 years, his small steps soft on the ground. His name did not matter now. What mattered was that he was lost. The boy had wandered too far from the colony settlement. He wanted to chase the light of the fireflies. He wanted to hear the sound of the river, but now he could not find his way home. Fear started to grow in his chest, but he tried to stay brave. He looked up at the stars, hoping to see a familiar sign. That was when the sky tore open. A line of fire cut across the dark heavens. It was not a shooting star. It was bigger, brighter, and closer. The boy gasped as he saw the burning object crash through the clouds. The sound was like thunder, and the ground shook under his feet. Birds screamed and flew into the night. The boy covered his ears, but he could not look away. The glowing object fell into the forest not far from him. He saw the trees light up as if the sun had suddenly risen for 1 second. Then everything became dark again. The boy's heart raced. His mind told him to run, but his curiosity pulled him forward. Step by step, he walked toward the place where the object had fallen. The forest smelled of smoke. The ground was hot under his shoes. He moved branches aside and saw a deep mark on the earth. At the end of the mark was a strange pod, half buried in the dirt. It was round, smooth, and silver, glowing faintly like the moon. The boy had never seen anything like it. He took one slow step, then another, until he stood beside the pod. A soft sound came from inside, like crying. The boy froze. His heart beat faster. Was it an animal? Was it dangerous? He listened again. No, it was not the growl of a beast. It was the soft, weak cry of a baby. With shaking hands, the boy touched the pod. It was warm. A line of light appeared across its surface, and then, slowly, it opened. The boy stepped back quickly, fear filling him. But what he saw made him forget his fear. Inside the pod lay a tiny creature. Its skin was pale blue, its eyes large and dark, shining with tears. Its hands were small and trembling, and it wrapped them around nothing, as if searching for comfort. The boy's mouth fell open. This was not a human baby. This was something else, something from the stars. The alien baby cried again, a sound full of pain and fear. The boy felt his own fear soften. He remembered how his little sister used to cry when she was cold. He remembered how his mother would hold her, whisper, and give her a blanket. The boy looked down at the alien child and felt pity rise in his heart. He slowly bent down and whispered, "Don't cry. It's okay." The baby's large eyes turned toward him. For a moment their gazes locked, human and alien, two children of different worlds. The boy did not understand why, but he felt a strange connection. The night grew colder. The alien baby shivered. Its small body shook and it looked weaker with every passing second. The boy thought fast. He had only one blanket with him, the one he carried when he left home earlier. It was old, soft, and warm. He pulled it from his bag. He held the blanket in his hands, unsure if he should do it. This was an alien. His parents had always told him to be careful, to avoid strange things. But when he looked at the baby's trembling form, his heart made the choice for him. Slowly, gently, he wrapped the blanket around the small alien. The crying stopped. The baby's shaking grew less. Its eyes blinked slowly, and then it closed them. With the blanket around its tiny body, it fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. The boy stared amazed. A warmth spread in his chest. He had never felt so important before. But the peace did not last long. Far away in the dark of the forest, a new sound rose. A strange hum, like machines moving through the air. The boy froze. Lights flickered between the trees, red and sharp. Voices echoed in a language he could not understand. Something was coming. The boy looked at the sleeping alien baby in his arms. He understood one thing very clearly. Someone was looking for this child. And they were close. The quiet forest no longer felt safe. The boy's breath quickened. His hands shook, but he held the baby tighter. He had no idea what he had just become part of. But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The boy stood frozen in the dark forest, his small body tense as the strange red lights flickered between the trees. The alien baby slept peacefully in his arms, wrapped tightly in the soft blanket. Its pale blue face calm now, no longer crying, no longer trembling. And yet the boy's heart beat like a drum because he knew danger was near. He knew those lights were not fireflies or lanterns from the colony. They were something else, something searching, and deep down he felt they were searching for the little creature he now held. His steps were slow. his breaths quick, and the sound of the baby's soft breathing was the only thing keeping him brave. He thought of his mother's words about courage, that courage was not the absence of fear but doing the right thing even when you are afraid. And in this moment he was more afraid than ever. But he still chose to protect the child. The night air grew colder, the wind sharper, and the trees seemed to whisper warnings as he walked further from the crash site. Behind him the silver pod still glowed faintly like a fallen star, but he dared not look back. He dared not linger because he knew someone would come for it. He pressed forward, the baby pressed against his chest, tiny fingers gripping the blanket as if it knew who had saved it, as if it trusted him already. The boy's mind was full of questions. What was this creature? Why did it fall from the sky? Why did it cry like a human baby, and why did he, a simple child from a colony settlement, suddenly feel like he had been chosen for something far bigger than himself? Yet no answers came. Only more questions, and behind those questions grew a fear he could not escape. The hum of machines grew louder, the red lights brighter. They cut through the trees like angry eyes, and strange voices echoed through the forest, not human voices, low and sharp. Words he could not understand, but tones that were full of command, full of hunger. He knew these voices belonged to whoever was searching for the baby, and they did not sound kind. They did not sound gentle. They sounded like hunters. The boy tightened his grip around the baby and turned away from the lights. He had to move, he had to hide, he had to keep the child safe. His small feet carried him over roots and stones, through shadows and thorns, and each step felt like it carried the weight of the stars. The blanket slipped slightly and he quickly pulled it higher, making sure the baby stayed warm, making sure the little one felt safe. He whispered softly, even though the alien could not understand, "Don't worry, I will not let them take you. You are safe with me." And to his surprise, the baby's small eyes opened for a moment, glowing faintly in the dark, as if it understood, as if it believed his words. Then it closed them again and pressed closer into his chest. The warmth of the blanket now mixed with the warmth of his own body, and that simple act of sharing warmth felt like a bond stronger than words, stronger than fear. Deeper into the forest he ran until he remembered a place, an old cave near the edge of the hills, a place he and his friends used to explore during the day. It was hidden behind thick vines and rocks. No one would look there in the dark. If he could reach it, maybe they would be safe. Maybe they could rest, so he pushed himself harder, ignoring the pain in his legs, ignoring the branches that scratched his arms. Every sound behind him grew louder. The machines buzzing, the voices shouting, and now he could even hear the heavy steps of boots crushing leaves. They were close, too close, but still he refused to give up. He refused to abandon the small life in his arms. Finally he reached the hill, panting, exhausted, and there it was, the entrance to the cave half hidden by vines. Without hesitation he pushed through and slipped inside. The air inside was cold, damp, and silent. Only the distant drip of water echoed through the dark. He pressed his back against the stone wall, holding the baby close, listening as the red lights moved past outside, listening as the strange voices shouted commands. For a terrifying moment he thought they would enter the cave, that they would shine their lights inside and find him. But the voices faded slowly, the lights drifted away, and the hum of machines grew weaker. They had gone in another direction, at least for now. The boy let out a long breath of relief, his body trembling from fear and exhaustion. He looked down at the alien baby who was still wrapped in the blanket, still asleep. So small, so fragile, yet so important that others were searching desperately for it. He did not know why. He did not know what it meant, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The moment he gave his blanket to this child, the moment he chose kindness over fear, his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a lost boy in the forest. He was a protector, and this tiny being from the stars was now under his care. Outside, the night stretched on, full of danger and mystery, but inside the cave, in the glow of the soft blanket and the steady breathing of the alien baby, there was warmth, there was peace, and there was the beginning of a bond that might change the fate of two worlds. The cave was dark and cold, but the boy dared not rest for long, his small hand still holding the alien baby close, the blanket wrapped tightly around the fragile body, the soft breathing of the child filling the silence. Yet outside the night was alive with danger. The hum of machines still echoed faintly. The strange voices shouted in the distance, and the boy knew the search was not over. They were still out there hunting, and sooner or later, they would come closer again. So he pressed his back against the stone wall, his eyes wide, his ears sharp, his heart beating like a drum in the stillness, and for a moment he thought of home, of the warm lights of the settlement, of his parents, of safety. But he could not go back. Not now. Not with the baby in his arms, because he knew the moment the soldiers saw the child, they would take it, and deep down he feared they would do worse than that. So he chose to stay hidden, to wait, to listen, until the shadows moved again. The alien baby stirred, its tiny fingers clutching the blanket, its eyes opening for a brief moment, large and dark, shining faintly like pieces of the night sky. It looked at him with an innocence that made his fear soften, but also with a strange depth, as if it understood more than it should, as if it knew the danger outside. Then it gave a weak sound, a soft whimper before closing its eyes again, and the boy whispered gently, "It's okay, I'm here. I won't let them take you." His voice low, trembling but determined, and though the alien could not understand his words, it seemed to find comfort in his tone, pressing its tiny head against his chest as if to trust him fully. Time passed slowly inside the cave, each second heavy, and the boy almost believed the danger had passed. But then the sound came, sharp and sudden, the buzz of a drone hovering close, its red light spilling through the gaps in the vines at the cave's mouth. The boy's breath caught. He pressed himself tighter against the wall, pulling the baby deeper into the shadows. The light moved slowly, scanning, searching, and he could hear the soft hum of its engines vibrating through the stones. Closer, closer, until the red glow almost touched his face. His whole body froze, his heart hammering so hard he feared it would give them away. But at the last moment, the drone shifted direction, its red light sliding across the vines, and then it drifted away, the sound fading back into the forest. The boy let out a silent breath of relief, his hands shaking, but he knew this was only the beginning. They were searching every corner, and they would not stop until they found the baby. He thought quickly. He could not stay in the cave forever. It would be the first place they checked again. He had to move, but where could he go? The forest was full of their machines. The colony settlement was too far, and the night seemed endless. He thought of an old path that led deeper into the hills, a path rarely used by anyone, dangerous but hidden. Maybe it could give him time. Maybe it could keep them away from the hunters. So he decided he would not wait to be found. He would move now while the baby slept. While the voices were still far, he stood slowly, adjusting the blanket around the child, tightening his grip, and then he slipped out of the cave, one step at a time, careful, silent, like a shadow among shadows. The forest outside was alive with red lights moving in the distance, drones hovering above, soldiers walking with strange weapons in their hands, their armor glowing faintly in the dark. The boy had never seen anything like them, their tall forms, their sharp movements. They looked like predators more than people. He ducked low, moving behind the thick roots of the trees, every step measured, every sound of his foot careful. The alien baby made a soft sigh but stayed asleep, and the boy prayed it would not cry again, because even one sound could bring the hunters upon them. He moved along the old path, branches scratching his arms, stones under his feet, but he kept going, fear burning inside him. Yet stronger than fear was the strange feeling in his chest, the feeling that he had to protect this child at all costs. Suddenly, a flash of red cut across his path, a drone floating ahead, its sensors scanning the ground. He ducked quickly behind a fallen log. Holding the baby tightly, the drone paused, its red light sweeping across the area, and the boy's breath stopped, his body stiff as stone. He prayed the machine would not sense them. But then the alien baby stirred, its eyes opening faintly, glowing with a soft light, and for one terrifying moment the glow lit the inside of the blanket. Shining like a lantern in the dark, the boy quickly pulled the cloth tighter, covering the glow, his heart racing, but he feared it was too late. The drone shifted, its light swinging back toward him, and for a moment he thought the end had come. But just as the red glow brushed past, a sharp sound echoed from the other side of the forest, voices shouting, weapons firing. The drone turned suddenly and sped toward the noise, leaving the boy hidden in silence once more, saved by luck but also warned, because the baby's glow was a secret that could not be hidden forever, and if it happened again they might not escape so easily. The boy held the baby tighter. His mind racing, he now understood the truth. The danger was not only outside, it was also within the small life he carried. The glow was beautiful but deadly. It was a beacon for those who hunted, and if he was to keep the baby safe, he would need more than courage. He would need cunning. He would need to move like a ghost in the night. For the shadows were full of eyes, full of machines, full of danger. And yet as he walked deeper into the forest path, his fear turned slowly into resolve. He was only a child, but he was not helpless. He had chosen to protect, and now he would not stop. No matter how dark the night became, no matter how many shadows hunted them, He would not let the alien baby be taken. He would not let the warmth he had given be stolen away. The boy moved carefully through the forest, his small arms still holding the alien baby close, the blanket wrapped tight around its fragile body, and though his legs trembled with fear and exhaustion, he kept walking because he knew stopping was not an option. Behind him, the red light still flickered in the distance. The strange soldiers still searched with their sharp voices and their hungry machines. Every sound of snapping twigs made him freeze. Every shadow felt like eyes watching, but still he went forward step by step, his heart guiding him more than his mind because he remembered something. He remembered a cave hidden deeper in the hills, a place he had once found with his friends while exploring. It had secret tunnels, narrow and dark, and maybe, just maybe, it could hide him now. So with that hope in his heart, he chose the old path leading upward into the rocks, into the unknown. The climb was not easy. His shoes slipped on stones, his arms ached from holding the baby. The night air cut cold against his skin, but the baby stirred only softly, still asleep, its tiny glow hidden by the folds of the blanket, and that gave him courage, he whispered to it as he climbed. Just a little more, I'll keep you safe, I promise. And even though he knew the alien could not understand, speaking gave him strength. Speaking made him feel less alone. The trees grew thinner as he climbed higher. The stars shone brighter above, and far below he could still see the flashes of red scanning through the forest. The hunters were everywhere, but they were slower on the ground. They did not know the secret paths he knew. They did not know the cave. At last he reached the entrance, half hidden by rocks and vines, a dark mouth in the side of the hill, and without hesitation he slipped inside. The air was damp and heavy. The sound of dripping water echoed from deep within. Shadows clung to the stone walls, but to him it was safety. At least for a moment he moved deeper, his hands brushing against rough stone, until he found the narrow passage he remembered, barely wide enough for a child, impossible for the tall soldiers, and with determination he squeezed through, holding the baby tightly against his chest, feeling the stone scrape his shoulders, but also feeling relief because he knew they could not follow him here. This was his escape, this was his path. Inside the cave, the air grew colder and the silence was heavy, broken only by the baby's soft breaths and the steady drip of water falling from the ceiling. The boy sat down on a flat stone, his chest rising and falling quickly, his body tired but his spirit still awake. He listened for sounds outside, for the hum of machines, but the stone walls kept the hunter's noise far away. He was hidden, at least for now, and he let himself breathe. He let himself close his eyes for a moment, but then something strange happened. The baby stirred, its small eyes opened, and for the first time it did not just glow faintly, it glowed brighter. Softly lighting the cave walls, the boy gasped, his eyes widening as he saw strange symbols carved into the stone, symbols that had been invisible before, now shining with the baby's light, curling shapes and sharp lines that seemed ancient, older than the colony, older than anything he had seen. The baby reached its tiny hand toward the wall, and as its fingers brushed against the glowing carvings, the stone seemed to respond. A low hum filled the cave and the wall shifted, opening slowly like a door, revealing a hidden passage leading deeper inside. The boy's mouth fell open in shock. His heart racing, he whispered, "What is this place?" But the baby only blinked, its eyes calm as if it had always known, as if it had been guiding him here all along. With trembling steps, the boy carried the child through. The new passage and what he found took his breath away. A chamber filled with light, a chamber carved with murals of humans and aliens standing together, side by side, not fighting, not enemies, but allies. The walls glowed as if remembering, as if telling a story long forgotten. The boy stood in awe, the baby's glow reflecting on the stone, his mind full of wonder and questions. Had humans and this alien race met before? Had they been friends once? Why had no one ever spoken of this? And why did the baby's light unlock it? But before answers could come, the sound of footsteps echoed faintly. The hunters were close again, maybe following the faint glow, maybe simply searching every hill, but their voices were louder now, their machines buzzing nearer. The boy felt his chest tighten. He looked at the sleeping baby, then at the glowing chamber. He knew this place was important. He knew the baby was important, and he knew the hunters must never find either. So he turned quickly, searching the chamber for another path, and there at the far end was a narrow crack in the stone, a way out. With shaking hands, he pulled the blanket tighter around the baby, whispering, "Hold on, we must keep moving." And he slipped into the crack, the stone rough against his arms, his steps fast despite his exhaustion. Behind him, the chamber slowly dimmed as the baby's glow faded again, the carvings vanishing back into darkness, hidden from the world once more. The boy squeezed through the crack and found himself in another tunnel leading upward, toward the outside. And though fear still burned in him, he felt something else too. A strange sense of purpose, a strange strength, as if the cave had shown him that he was not just protecting a lost child, he was protecting a secret, a hope, maybe even the key to peace he did not fully understand. But he knew enough. He had to escape. He had to survive for the baby, for himself, and maybe for something greater than both. The tunnel twisted deeper into the hill, the boy moving with quick steps though his body begged for rest, his arms tight around the alien baby. The blanket clutched firmly to hide its glow, yet the glow still leaked faintly through the cloth, guiding his way like a small star in the darkness. The stone walls pressed close on both sides, rough and damp, and the air smelled of earth and time. Every drip of water echoed like a drumbeat. But still he pressed forward because he could hear the hunters outside, their machines buzzing, their weapons clicking, their voices sharp in the night. They were near, far too near, and if they found the hidden chamber behind him, everything would be lost. So he kept climbing upward until the tunnel suddenly widened, and what opened before him made his breath stop, his eyes widening in disbelief, for it was not just a cave. It was something more, something ancient. A place built with purpose long before he was born, long before his people came to this planet. The chamber was vast, its walls smooth and curved, and every surface was covered with markings that shimmered faintly in the baby's glow, lines and shapes that told stories without words. The boy stepped slowly inside, his small feet echoing on the stone floor, and as he walked further he saw the images more clearly. Humans carved into the rock, their faces proud and kind, standing beside beings that looked like the baby. Tall figures with the same dark eyes and pale skin. Their hands joined, their heads bowed toward each other. Not in war, not in fear, but in peace. The boy stared, his mouth slightly open, his heart racing with questions. Had humans met these creatures before? Had they lived together once? Was this planet not just a colony but a forgotten meeting place between worlds? He could not understand it all, but the sight filled him with awe. It made the danger outside seem smaller for just one moment because here, inside this secret place, he felt like he had stepped into a story older than time. The baby stirred in his arms, its small hand pushing against the blanket, and when the boy loosened the cloth, the glow grew stronger, spreading across the chamber like dawn. The carvings lit up one by one, until the whole chamber shined with soft light, and then, in the very center of the floor, a circle of stone shifted, opening slowly, revealing a platform that rose upward with a faint hum. The boy gasped, his legs trembling, but he stepped closer. Curiosity stronger than fear. The baby's eyes opened now, glowing like tiny stars, and as the platform rose, a figure of light appeared above it. A tall figure made not of flesh but of shimmering energy. Its voice was not like words but like music, yet somehow the boy understood. It spoke of peace. It spoke of an ancient bond between humans and this alien race. It spoke of promises made and promises broken, and finally it spoke of hope. A hope carried in the smallest of beings. A child born among the stars. A child who must be protected until the time of unity returned. The boy's heart pounded, for he realized that child was the one he now held. The baby wrapped in his blanket. The baby who had fallen from the sky into his arms. Tears stung his eyes. Not from sadness, but from the weight of it all. He was only a boy, he had no power, no weapons, no wisdom. Yet here he stood in the heart of an ancient secret, holding a child who carried the future. His voice shook as he whispered, "Why me? I'm just a kid." But the glowing figure seemed to turn its head toward him, as if to say, "Because you chose kindness, because you gave warmth when all others would have turned away." The boy trembled, clutching the baby tighter. The figure faded slowly. The platform sank back into the floor, and the chamber dimmed again, leaving only the soft glow of the baby, only the heartbeat of the boy echoing in his chest. He felt both small and great at once, terrified yet proud, and though he could not explain it, he knew he had been chosen, not by power, not by chance, but by choice, the choice he made when he gave his blanket. But the moment of wonder shattered quickly, because outside the hunters had drawn closer, their machines now buzzing at the very edge of the hill, their voices echoing down the tunnels, searching, calling. The boy snapped back to reality, his body tense again. He looked around the chamber desperately for another way out, and there at the far side was a narrow stair carved into the rock. Leading upward toward a crack of faint moonlight, without hesitation he ran toward it. His feet fast, his breath quick. The baby pressed against him, the glow hidden once more under the blanket. He climbed the steps 2 at a time, his small frame fitting easily through the narrow passage, and as he reached the top he squeezed out into the night air. The stars wide above him, the forest stretching far below, and the sound of the hunters still too close, far too close. His chest burned with fear but also with a strange fire, for he now understood what he carried. He now understood the gift he had been given, and he would not let them take it. Not tonight, not ever. He would fight with his heart, with his courage, with his humanity, for the secret within this cave, and for the life wrapped in his arms. Because some bonds were stronger than fear, stronger than war, stronger even than the shadows that hunted him. The night outside the cave was colder than before, the wind sharp against the boy's face as he squeezed through the crack and stumbled onto the rocky slope, the alien baby still pressed against his chest, wrapped tight in the blanket, the stars above glittering like thousands of eyes watching from the heavens. And for a heartbeat he thought he was safe. But then the hum of machines grew louder again. The red lights cut across the trees below, and the heavy footsteps of armored soldiers echoed up the hill. They had found the trail. They were climbing. They were coming straight toward him. His legs shook with fear, but he did not run. Not yet. Because there was nowhere left to run. The slope ended in a cliff, steep and dangerous, and behind him was only the narrow cave he had just escaped. So he stood frozen between stone and sky, his heart racing, his mind screaming for a way out, but deep down he knew the truth. The hunters were too close. Sooner or later they would see him. Sooner or later they would take the child, unless he made a stand. The first soldier appeared through the trees, tall and sharp in black armor that gleamed in the starlight, a strange weapon in his hands glowing with red energy, his eyes hidden behind a mask that hissed with every breath, and behind him came more, 3, 4, 5, all moving with the same cold precision, their lights sweeping across the slope, searching, scanning, until finally one beam fell on the boy. The light caught his small form, the bundle in his arms, and the soldiers froze for a moment as if surprised. Then their voices rose in that harsh alien tongue, shouting commands, pointing weapons, advancing slowly like predators circling prey. The boy's chest tightened, his arms clutched the baby tighter, and his small voice broke the silence as he shouted, "You can't have him. He's mine to protect." Though his words were weak against their growling language, though his body was trembling, there was fire in his eyes, fire that no soldier could ignore. The baby stirred inside the blanket. As if awakened by his voice, its eyes opened, glowing brighter than before, and suddenly the soldiers stopped, their weapons raised but their movements unsure because the glow grew stronger, spreading out like a wave of pale blue light that touched the stones, the trees, even the soldiers themselves. And in that glow the boy felt a force stir around him, a warmth, a pressure, something powerful hidden inside the tiny child. The baby began to cry softly, not from fear but from effort, as if calling on something deep within, and then it happened. The glow burst outward in a wave of energy. The ground shook, the air trembled. The soldiers stumbled backward as their weapons sparked and died, their red lights flickering out one by one. The machines in the forest crashing to the ground like broken toys. The boy fell to his knees from the force, but he did not let go of the child, his small body shielding it from the storm of power, his teeth clenched, his arms wrapped tight, even as the stones rattled and the cliff shuddered under his feet. When the light finally faded, silence filled the night. The forest still, the machines dead, the soldiers groaning as they lay scattered on the ground, their weapons useless, their armor cracked. The boy gasped for breath, his body weak, his arms trembling from holding on. But he looked down at the baby and saw its glow dim again, its eyes half closed, its body fragile once more. It had given everything in that single burst, and now it was exhausted. The boy whispered quickly, "You're safe, I've got you, it's okay." Though he was not sure if it was true, though fear still clawed at his chest because he knew the soldiers would not stay down forever. They were stronger, older, trained for war, while he was only a child, unarmed, alone. But as the nearest soldier pushed himself up, his mask cracked, his weapon sparking, the boy stood, planting his feet firmly on the stone, holding the baby high against his chest, his eyes burning with a courage that surprised even himself. He shouted again, louder this time, "You will not take him, I will protect him, no matter what," his voice echoing across the hill like a promise carved in stone. The soldiers hesitated, their glowing eyes fixed on the boy, and for the first time he saw something other than hunger in them. He saw doubt, maybe even fear, because they had seen the baby's power. They had felt it. and they had seen a human child stand unbroken in its storm. The boy's legs shook, his body small before their tall figures, but his spirit was larger than the night, larger than the danger, and though he had no weapon, he had something stronger. He had his heart. He had his choice, the choice to give warmth instead of fear, the choice to protect instead of surrender, the choice that had already changed everything. And in that moment he was not just a boy, he was a shield. He was a protector, and the alien child in his arms was the reason he would never bend, never yield, never break. The boy stood tall on the rocky slope, his small frame trembling from exhaustion, but his arms steady as they held the alien baby close. The soldiers still surrounded him, their black armor broken, their weapons dead from the burst of power, their glowing masks cracked and sparking. Yet they did not move, they only stared, silent, their sharp voices gone, because they had felt the storm, they had seen the glow, and they knew the child wrapped in the blanket was no ordinary being. The boy's chest rose and fell quickly, his breath sharp, his legs weak, but his spirit blazed like fire. He whispered to the baby, "I will not let them take you, I promise," and as if hearing his vow, the alien baby opened its eyes again, glowing faintly, not with wild power this time, but with soft warmth. The same glow that had lit the chamber, the same glow that had told stories of peace, and in that light the boy felt something greater than himself, something vast, like the stars leaning down to watch. The soldiers shifted uneasily, their voices low now, their weapons still lifeless, and one of them raised a hand as if to take a step forward. But then the night sky broke open, a beam of light shot down from the heavens, bright and pure, the forest lit up as if it were day, and above them a great shape descended. Larger than any ship the boy had ever seen, a mothership, silver and vast, floating silently in the sky, its lights shining in patterns like a heartbeat. The soldiers froze, dropping to their knees as if in worship. Their heads bowed, and the boy looked up with wide eyes. His mouth open in awe, the baby stirred again, reaching its small hand toward the ship as if calling, and in response the ship's lights pulsed brighter, softer, like a greeting, like a promise. The boy's fear slowly turned into wonder, because he realized the ship was not here to destroy. It was not here to take the child by force. It was here to listen, to witness, to judge. The soldiers rose slowly, their heads still bowed, their voices hushed in tones of respect, not command. And the boy understood. The alien baby was not just precious to him. It was precious to them all, but there was a difference. They wanted it as a weapon, as a key. While he had given it only warmth, only care, and now the ship itself seemed to see the truth. Seemed to choose because its beam of light moved, not toward the soldiers, but toward the boy, covering him and the baby in a soft glow, lifting their shadows, warming their skin, and in that glow the boy felt no fear, no pain, only peace, as if the ship itself bowed to him, honoring his choice, honoring his courage. The soldiers lowered their weapons completely, some falling to their knees again, others simply stepping back into the shadows, defeated not by force but by a bond they could not break. The boy tightened the blanket around the baby, its small hand still glowing, and he whispered, "We did it. You're safe now." Though in his heart he knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater. Because this child was not meant to hide forever. It was meant to grow, to lead, to heal the wound between two worlds. And he, a human boy from a small colony, had been the first to show it kindness, the first to protect it, the first to prove that humans could choose compassion when others chose fear, and that choice had changed everything. The mothership hovered above, its lights fading slowly until only the stars remained, the beam of light withdrawing, leaving the boy and the baby still standing on the rocky slope. The soldiers gone into the forest, silent and unseen. The machines broken, the night calm again. The boy let out a long breath, his body finally giving in to exhaustion, his knees bending as he sat on the cold stone, the baby curled against him, the blanket soft between them. He looked down at its sleeping face, peaceful once more, and he smiled weakly, whispering, "Rest now, little one, I'll keep you safe until you're ready." His voice full of a promise that reached beyond the night, beyond the forest, beyond even the stars, a promise that one small act of kindness could echo forever. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying away the smoke and fear. The sky stretched wide and endless above, and the boy, though only a child, knew he had done something great, not with strength, not with weapons, but with humanity, with warmth, with a simple blanket given to a baby who needed it, and that was the true power of his kind, the power to protect, to care, to love. And in that power lay the bond of two worlds sealed not by war, not by treaties, but by the heart of a human child who chose to stand, who chose to give, who chose to fight not for himself but for another. And that choice would be remembered. That choice would shape the future, long after the night was gone.